Alright, this reading is for Kasia. This is August 17th, 2021. So in the reading, there's going to be two main things I look at. There's the personality psychology, which is in the hand shape and the lines, and those are somewhat changeable. So your hand can change shapes, your lines can actually change, and there actually can be gift markers in the hand that go away. Sometimes they appear. This usually happens, over time. And then I also look at the soul psychology, which is what's in the fingerprints, and that's what you came here to work on as a soul. So it's kind of like you have your life purpose, which is what you came here to really inhabit, your life lesson, which you came here to really work on, and then you also have the overall theme of your life. So, okay, so I'm going to talk about the hand shape that you have. You actually have the same hand shape that I have, which is morning mist, and it's a combination of water and air. Oh, that's good. Okay. Yeah, water and air. And morning mist people have the nuanced emotionality, so there's not just sadness or anger, there's all the different shades of gray of emotions with morning mist people. And they also have the thinky, the brainstorming, intellectual part combined together. And what's kind of interesting with the morning mist people is that they tend to be very sensitive to their environments. They have to have some sort of creative outlet because they feel so much. There's just so much that they're thinking about what they're feeling what they're thinking, and the key word here is nuanced. There's really a depth to their emotions, and on the downside, it can also be an aloofness, where it's like almost like a naivety about this hand shape. And so another thing about morning mist is that they can turn on you. Like if someone crosses them the wrong way, it's almost like they can kind of put them in the realm of this person is evil. And then they'll it's almost like all hell is frozen over, and it's like there's no contact, it's almost like they kind of ghost you. Whereas other hand types, there might be heated discussions, and there might be brainstorming, there might be other stuff that happens. With the morning mist, if the person has crossed over into they're now evil, it's almost like they'll kind of completely flip. It's kind of like Ice Queen, where all hell freezes over. They ghost people. So it's almost like they're able to kind of turn off the emotionality. Turn it on, turn it off. Any questions about that? Okay. Let's talk about your the heart line. So the heart line is kind of like how you are in relationships, and you have very Clint. It's based off of the Clint Eastwood heart line, and this is all about Clint was all about his mission first ahead of relationships. On both hands, you have a very Clinty, almost hermity, what we call the hermit heart line. So being with someone that's like, oh, you know what, I need to hang out with you more, we need to spend more time together, is not going to work with you, because you're going to need your space. It's like, what would make this heart line work is like if you guys had separate houses or something, where you had your own separate spaces, where you could work on your important mission, and relationship is treated kind of secondary, it looks like. And there's nothing wrong with it. This is all about, you are wired to be this way. So this is like the blueprints of what makes you you. This is like the roadmap. It's not going to tell you like where you're going to fit best in with a marketplace or anything like that. It's going to say this is how you're wired. Make adjustments. Really try to build your life around it. Okay. There is a little bit of so when this this lifeline's a little bit kind of burnt out, and it's like really white, like this. It's where it's kind of wide. This usually shows up as burnout in career. So it's like, kind of running the wheels too much. It's almost like need to reevaluate everything, and really check in if this is really what you want to do. What you're doing is really matching with your purpose, which I'll get into soon. You have the lifeline and the headline are very separated. I've actually never seen it that separated, and what that means is usually when they're really connected, it's someone who kind of falls in the line of their family belief system. They're really kind of in line with the family beliefs, and when it's wide apart, it's like very independent thinker. They do very different. It's like they're very headstrong. They do their own thing. They don't listen to tradition. Just gets thrown out the window. And this is very powerful because on a morning mist hand, morning mist is kind of water takes the shape of its container, so there's like this blending thing about it. And with this independent, thinker aspect in the hand, so that's kind of a delicious dilemma, right? That's where it can kind of you have that strength of your independence here. And then the Clint heart lines of, I'm putting my work ahead of relationship, my important mission. Okay. You also got, I'm looking at the tips of your fingers. So, I would say, yeah, so when you, this is extra pronounced right here, the fourth finger. This is a kind of a Joplin tip, we call this. And this is the reframer, seeing things from a different angle. One thing about this is that it can almost be an extra sensitivity to aesthetics, so your environment. It's almost like this, your whole hand shape, plus like the other nuances I'm looking at, kind of resemble a conic hand shape, which is very much about the environment, the aesthetics, the beauty of the environment. Like you might walk into a home, and if the picture is crooked, it would drive you crazy. Or if the carpet is a little bit wonky, doesn't match the walls, it would be hard for you to focus. So it's like very aesthetically pleasing, peaceful environments are going to be really, like feng shui is really going to be important for this type of hand. And the Joplin tip just makes it much more sensitive to that. One of the challenges with the conic hand shape, and remember, conic hand shape and morning mist are kind of, they're kind of like cousins, is inertia, is getting things moving, right? Because they kind of get into dreamland, the imagination, they get into thinking, they get into the dream world. And so it's like, what's missing in the hand is the earth and the fire, and the opposite of this hand shape is the worker bee. So, I'm looking for where's the fire showing up in the hand, because that's going to be the balance, right? Sometimes I'll see things that are, water, air elements, and then without the fire. Now, you have a very impressive thumb. I would say for this hand, your thumb is actually, kind of the what do you call it? Wingspan of the thumb is actually good. It's strong for a morning mist. Morning mist, if they have short thumbs, if they have small stubby thumbs, it can be very challenging because it's like they have no control over their life. So the fact that you have a pretty well-defined thumb is actually a good thing. There's also, so I noticed if you look in your moon area of the hand, so you notice the thumb cannot get to the moon area. You have a little bit of a peacock, kind of a whirl right here. If you look at your right hand, there's a peacock. This has to do with the spiritual teacher. If this was your highest ranking fingerprint, it would be spiritual teacher. Now, the moon area is a little bit kind of droopy. And so when it's droopy, it means there needs to be more attention. Like the moon teardrop, the moon portion of the hand wants more attention. So, doing things that are less about the physical, the 3D, the mundane, and doing more things that are more inward. So like meditating, going on retreats, journaling, stuff that helps to kind of get you into your intuition, into your, like Qigong or yoga, stuff like that. Anything that helps you recognize that your whole environment, everything in your environment is a sign from God, basically. Okay, so I'm going to talk about your life purpose, and this is showing up by the highest ranking fingerprints, and this is actually a pretty hefty life purpose. So what you came here to be and to do, and it's a state of consciousness. It's not like, oh, you got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer. No, it's a state of consciousness that maybe those careers bring about in you. So this is big shot artist. You got the thumb, the Jupiter, and the Apollo, right? Apollo is all about being seen. And then these guys, this is the big shot. This is all about putting an idea out there in the world. So when we think of big shot artists, finding a stage that's appropriate for you. And there's always like the Thelma and Louise kind of, have you seen that movie? Okay, where it's like, are you finding a stage that's big enough? I have one friend that has the same life purpose, and I almost think because he works behind the camera that's not a big enough stage for him. It's like he needs to be in front of the camera, but it's interesting he's working behind the camera. It's almost like he's hiding. So this life purpose is like, you got the sensitive morning mist hands, nuanced, emotionality, and then you got this big hefty life purpose, big shot artist. So you're meant to put your artwork out there in the world. You're supposed to, express yourself, pour your guts out on your canvas of choice. Stand back and be able to be like, hey, that's me. This is my work. Going beyond the technical stuff to true artistry. So you feel like whatever you're putting out there really represents who you are on a deep soul level. Big shot artist. I mean, just artist by itself is all about putting yourself out there, expressing yourself, and it could be anything. This artwork could be, making Model T cars. It could be painting. It could be poetry. It could be making sushi. It could be interior design. It could be fashion design. I mean, there's really whatever allows you to express yourself. But the fact that you have big shot in this, the big shot is like CEO. That's like leader. That's like big shot. We think of, and the reason we call it big shot is because you have to face the little shot in you. It's like, who do you think you are to be so powerful and this big leader, And it's like, yeah, that is your calling. So, when we have a composite on the fingerprint, and this is on left Jupiter, this means it has the ability to turn on and off. So when it's on left Jupiter, this has to do with boundaries. And, sorry for that pause. Okay, so it has the ability to turn on and off. It has to do with boundaries. So when you're in your life purpose, this is all going well. When you're in your life purpose inverse, this can show up as being in love with a married man. In other words, being involved with someone who's unavailable. Okay? And the thing is, the reasoning behind being with someone who's unavailable is that they don't really see you, right? They can only get so close to you. So it's like, keep your distance, you keep it safe, you kind of keep it on a more superficial level. And then I'm going to look at your life lesson. Okay, so your life lesson has to do with the reluctant shaman. So, the shaman is all about traversing different levels of consciousness, being able to go from one realm to another. You guys are like, shamanism is like, the people that would lead the ayahuasca ceremonies. So this is the name of the life lesson, is reluctant shaman. So not trusting that you have these powers, that there is nothing that you cannot do spiritually with being able to go through these different realms. You don't need ayahuasca, you don't need drugs to do this, of course, but it's just saying there's a reluctance to really deep dive into the spirituality, and that also kind of gets reinforced with the droopy moon. And the fact that you have a dermatoglyphic, which is a fingerprint in the moon, which is a rare thing, actually, very rare, 1% of the population has that, okay? just goes to show that this is calling out for your attention. So, let's see, what is the penalty when you're not tapping into the moon? Disillusionment, let's see, isolation, disillusionment, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. So I will have to remember what that is, but when stuff doesn't feel like it's really coming together, it usually has to do with the inner world first. So addressing the inner world will help address the outer world. I'm going to talk about the overall theme of your life. You have 5 worlds and 5 loops. So I'd say your school service, but I'd also include maybe loving service in this as well. No, I'm just going to call it school service. So yeah, your whole theme of your life is knowing when to do for others and when not to do for others. There's not going to be one incident in your life that doesn't revolve around service. So checking in with yourself, am I doing this out of obligation, out of fear, out of I have to do this, or are you doing this because the reward in the service is the gift, is the reward, the giving is the reward. And being very picky about what you do the service for. There's the example of the guy who walks up the mountain and he sees the pretty girl and he's like, oh, let me help you carry your backpack. And she's like, okay. Oh, let me help you carry your tent. And she's like, okay. And then she goes up to the very top of the mountain and she's all with her boyfriend. And then the guy feels used. Well, had the guy been up front about like, hey, I really find you attractive. Could we get some coffee? Rather than just trying to start doing stuff for her so that he would obligate her to him, he actually got into servitude. Do you see how that works? Because he's doing that. And then there's also the example of, you're living in a house and your friend needs a place to stay, so you let them sleep over. Oh, your brother's cousin's mom needs a place to stay, so you let them live in your house. Oh, and their 5 chihuahuas also need a place to live. Oh, and their mariachi band needs a place to stay too. So you just say yes, and then you realize like, hey, this is my house. Like, I didn't really want this, but you kind of went into the same thing, but you kind of overdid it. Yeah, overdoing for others to kind of keep the peace. Mm-hmm. So this is really, there's not going to be one incident in your life that doesn't at its core revolve around service. Doing when to do for others, when not to do for others, being a master of service consciousness, and tuning into the things that you can be of service that really feed your soul on a deep level. There is like a programming in society that does talk about like how in our culture it's almost like an enmeshment with family members, where there's kind of like obligates you to kind of be at the disposal of each other. Kind of creates a codependency. So this is all about looking into this service. When I kind of triangulate all of this, your life purpose with your life lesson and the school, big shot artist who's in service to the world through your artwork, through you expressing yourself in the world on a very big stage, leadership. This is big shot. This is like CEO type of deal, and the real secret is you work on your life lesson, because that's what helps you take big steps up in your life purpose. It's like your team can only be as strong as your weakest link. Okay, and so the life lesson represents the weakest link, and we all have life lessons. So for you, the reluctant shaman is all about diving into the traversing realms, being able to go from one consciousness to another. Like you have some really cool superpowers that you've not tapped into. And I mean, this life lesson, like when I've read it on people that it's been their life purpose, it's like they're kind of the weirdos that live on the edge of society, and they get called in when there's a crisis. They get called in because they know they have the wisdom, they have the intuition, they have all the tools necessary to kind of be a healer, to help fix the situation, to help see the stuff that's really going on. So looking at all the underlying energies that people are not even aware of. You're meant to tune into these very deep details. Just so you know, like shaman, you guys are, if you studied any of the history of shamans, it's like they're not part of society, but when they get called in, they have a very specific purpose. They're there to help people, they're there to heal people, they're there to help with the sickness, they're there to help protect the people from, dangers that are coming their way. So it's really about dialing into that intuition and really being, we have a doggy. Hey doggy. Hey. So yeah, the shaman meant to dial into all those energies. So I'm going to mention some gift markers that you have. So on the Mercury Finger, you have some vertical lines. We call that healing stigmata. So this was seen on not the doctors, but on the nurses that sat by the patients that were sick. So it's a need to heal, to be healing people, to be helping them, being a psychological insights giver, being a therapist to people. And this is key. This is like a gift. So if you have a gift, you have to use it. If you don't use it, the penalty is blocked intimacy. So this is kind of something that's got to be at the forefront. So the big thing is going to be able to tap into the spiritual realm, the moon area of your hand, do more things that kind of less 3D, less mundane world, more going inward is going to help, because that's the part of your life lesson, which will help you take big steps up in your life purpose, big shot artist. When you're in your life, when your life lesson is not going so well, then the left Jupiter thing will kind of turn on. That's the in love with a married man, in love with someone who's unavailable. And morning mist, making sure you have an outlet for your creativity, because it needs to be expressed. Otherwise, it's like a bottled up, like mixing vinegar with baking soda in a bottle. It's like it will implode or explode. So it needs to have some sort of expression on a daily basis. Like out of all the hand shapes, this is the one that's like artistic, like expression. Like you have fuel inside of you that needs to be expressed, turned into art. So, all right.